Welcome to Mark the Machines number 71. In this issue, I'm taking on a very new, yet so far pretty successful player. My girlfriend Kushinada. When offered an introductory battle box match, she chose Gorten, whom she played exclusively so far. And so far she defeated Striker twice, Harkowicz once, and the game size has steadily increased. In trying to put up a decent fight without seeking to steamroller her, I chose the Butcher as her next challenge. Game size is 31 points, mission is Overrun, and one of these tanks isn't going to leave the table on his own 2 feet. Enjoy! Okay, the Butcher got first turn and deployed first. He brought the Kodiak Boris and the Spriggan Alexander, a min unit of assault commandos with 2 flamethrower weapon attachments, a Grey Lotanian, a min unit of battle mechanics, a minimum unit of Cossack Woodsmen, and a Gorten Lord. Gorten Grundback had a Driller, a Gardener and a Blaster, a min unit of Forge Guard, 1 artillery corps, and a Thor, who marshalled a Basher and an Avalancher. So I start the game from my 7-inch deployment border and barrel everything down towards the center at maximum speed in turn 1. Bar the Butcher, who buffed the assault commandos with iron flesh. The Gorten Lord also simply advanced, he has to power boost Alexander. The Turnian needlessly shares the blizzard love. Gorten starts out from his 14-inch deployment zone, curse you Searforge committee, and only hands out 1 focus to the Driller. The Horgenhold dwarves run forward, but the bunnies merely walk. Thor's jacks run up before Thor follows them and drives them another time to press forward even more. Gorten then takes a walk, puts strength of granite on the Driller and erects a rock wall. Round 2. Butcher upkeeps his spell, allocates none. I forget something. The assault commandos advance in shield wall, attempt some shots but fall short. Alexander runs up, the mechanics run too, to form a screen against the hammer-wielding weapon masters. The Turnian spreads blizzards because they can. Boris takes a few steps forward. The Butcher advances to put fury onto Boris. Gorten upkeeps strength of granite, drops rock wall. He gives 1 to the Blaster and 1 to the Gardener and keeps the rest. Kushinada decides to make a big push this turn because it's her chance to score. Time for some concerted efforts. The artillery corps drops a shell right onto a mechanic which, due to my bad positioning, clips another 2 and takes them all out. The new chief makes his check. The Blaster Bunny walks and sprays my left commando diamond and kills the front guy and the flamer, but the Butcher is not set on fire since he's not under the template. Thor goes, tunes the Avalancher's damage up and drives both his jacks. The Avalancher then stands to aim and puts a cannon shot into the Butcher, but a mediocre damage roll means he suffers only about 4 damage. The Basher then slams Boris backwards for 7 inches due to Grand Slam and puts a dent in. The Gun Bunny moves up and shoots a Grey Lord. Then the Forge Guard leader declares a charge and his unit charges Alexander. Well, 2 of them have to run, but the rest does charge, and they take out over half of his grid. However, they don't cripple a single system. Last one to go is Gorten, who charges the Gun Bunny to get extra range, deals a few points of damage on the charge and then feeds. With the feed he pushes my assault commandos and Alexander back 8 inches towards my table edge. Some of the assault commandos get stuck in the tower or in the Butcher's face, which however is good both good and bad for me. And due to scenario, Gorten scores his first control point. Round 3 Kato turn. Butcher allocates 3 focus to Boris, who shakes being knocked down and drops both spells. I remember to bring the Cossacks in this turn. If nothing else, they'll guarantee to keep me in the game for another turn. They pop inside the forest on the left and get the right to go first. They move up and take out Thor, which is very pleasing. Then they reform close to the zone's edge. The Butcher activates. He'd like to charge up into the zone, but he's pinned by the assault commandos in front of him. So he just advances, feeds, casts fury on the commandos and takes out the Forge Guardian with his blunderbuss. Boris charges the Basher, damages it noticeably, and then two-handed throws it into the Avalancher, knocking both down. The commandos are next, receive the assault and battery order, and proceed to put a few damage on either bunny. If it wasn't for -3 rat from the feed, there would have been a lot more pain. The Gorten Lord chimes in on the phone, moves up and frostbites another 2 Forge Guardians, taking them out easily. The Forge Guard makes their check. Alexander takes his 1-inch advance. It's a small advance for the game, but a great one for a speed 4 Kato heavy on -3 speed. The Grey Lord turn in advances and sprays the Blaster Bunny, hitting it, the Gun Bunny, and one also clips Gorten. Gorten suffers a point or two, the Gun Bunny is wrecked, and the Blaster Bunny is left on a few boxes. The Mechanic Chief charges the Forge Guardian but whiffs his charge attack roll. Gorten is now hard pressed to counteract the disturbing developments. To his further detriment, the Driller is no longer within his control zone. He gives one focus to the Blaster Bunny and drops Strength of Granite. The Driller goes to scare the Cossacks away. But the Basher stands up, forfeiting action, walks to Boris and flag fields for a few points of damage. The Avalancher stands up, forfeiting movement, and shoots a Grey Lord, scattering him throughout the area. The Blaster Bunny stands to aim and fires a powerful shot at the Assault Commandos, killing 2 more, but they make their check. Gorten fires a both barrels shot at the Butcher, boosting to hit and damage, and putting the hurt on, about 8 points. The Artillery Corps shoots the Butcher, however the shot misses and drifts away harmlessly. The Forge Guard charge, one knocks out the Mechanic Chief, while the other one charges the Butcher, dealing him good damage, another 6 or 7 points. Things aren't looking so good anymore. Gorten would score a point, but doesn't, since I have some trouble making hillbillies around on the edges. Round 4. Thank God for Cossacks, or I wouldn't be playing anymore. However, if this keeps up any longer, I'll lose the Butcher due to being assassinated. Set Butcher to tank mode! He upkeeps Fury on the Assault Commandos. Boris advances around the Basher, clubbers him for some more damage and once again flings him into the Avalancher. The Cossacks move about, avoiding the Driller, and try to put the last 3 boxes onto the Basher, yet fail. It should be said that my rolls were constantly good, but there were no peak results, which would have been necessary. The Assault Commandos get the Assault and Battery order again. One charges the Forge Guardian and the leader charges the Blaster Bunny. The Bunny is destroyed, but the Forge Guardian still lives. Gorten Lord to the rescue! He advances and frostbites one commando in the back, killing it and the Forge Guardian, engaging the Butcher. Alexander advances and takes the last Forge Guardian out with a grenade. The Butcher advances, shoots a boosted blunderbuss at Gorten, yet misses. Stupid cover. Gorten's turn again. He camps all. The Basher gets up, forfeits action, moves into base to base with 2 Cossacks and flag fields, killing 3. The Driller moves and munches another one. The Artillery Corps fires at the Butcher, yet bounces off the armor. Gorten fires another double-barreled shot at the Butcher, boosts damage and punches another 2 points through, and then he casts Eruption at the last Grey Lord, who goes to die in a fire. The Avalancher gets up, forfeiting movement, shoots the Butcher, yet falls short on the damage. Round 5 for the Butcher. He allocates Warden to Alexander and upkeeps no spells. Boris advances, beats on the Avalancher and throws him into the Driller, which frees up the Cossacks, who again try to destroy the Basher, but leave him on 1 box. Alexander advances. The Gorten Lord moves up the hill and frostbites the Horgenhold Artillery Corps off the table. The last commando fails against Gorten. Alexander runs. The Butcher moves sideways and fires a fully boosted blunderbuss shot at Gorten for more damage. I opt against casting Iron Flash and just camping the other 2 focus. Gorten has the Driller get up and move up into the Cossacks. The Avalancher gets up and fires into Boris, which leaves a serious dent. The Basher grand slams Boris and whiffs the attack roll. Gorten fires another fully boosted double-barreled shot into the Butcher, but leaves him on a single box. In a final effort, he throws an Eruption at the Butcher, which hits but deals no damage, yet sets him on fire. Round 6. The fire does not go out in the maintenance phase. On a 7, the Butcher will burn to a crisp. The dice come up, 6. The Butcher lives. Cossacks move back into the zone. Boris batters the Avalancher, flings him into the Driller for funds again. I activate the Butcher and charge Gorten. He goes down in 2 swings. The Butcher wins. In hindsight, I actually played 2 opponents this game. Since we were playing very late in the evening, Kushinada got tired and fell asleep on the couch, and Aridis took over. It was a really good game still, and even though she was being coached by both of us, she's quite apt at learning the tricks. Her VIP of the match was Gorten, who just almost gave her the win, with the Artillery Corps a close second. The VUP was the driller, who was also part of the biggest blunder, sending him to the other side of the forest where 3 heavies were staring down a single one. The list in itself works. The door package is big, but it performed so well and it was so unbelievably fast for a pure Ruli contingent. My VIP was, I guess, the Cold Nord frostbiting dudes all over. Nah, that's unfair, it has to be the Cossacks, because without my angry loud hillbillies I would have lost the game on my or her 3rd turn. My VUP were Alexander. The commandos didn't do a lot, but they were suffering from Gorten's feet. The Spriggan, though, did nothing but draw the false guard's attention, which is fine, but somebody has to lose here. My biggest blunder was even anticipating Gorten's feet, that I allowed the butcher to be stuck behind the commando so he couldn't waltz into the zone in turn 3 by himself. When it comes down to list changes, well, a lot could be done. Assault commandos and Cossacks are highly disliked, but I do think that the butcher can give them what they need. And they do have guns, which I still lack with most of my choices. And now, on to the second part of this program, tournament coverage. Alright, welcome to the first installment of the Faded Black T-shirt, my tournament coverage format. Actually, issue 53 of Martin the Machines back in the day probably was the prototype of this series. The tournament covered this time was the second The Foundry, held in a Koblenz friendly local game store. 10 people attended. I brought Commander Irusk and Vladimir the Dark Champion, and both lists were of the 1-jag max infantry kind. I'll be upfront about the results. I didn't do so well. I placed 7th out of 10, which is kind of to be expected when you lose games 1 and 3. Had I won the first one, or even finished it, I might have made 6th, which was my personal goal. But before I go into a little more detail on the games, I give thanks to Sidster the Pressganger and the players from the CTU LGS. Every opponent was sometimes taking a little getting used to, was a blast to play against. Here's the rundown of the games. In round 1 the scenario is Overrun. I'm matched against Krix with the choice of either Warwitch the Negra or Lich Lord Terminus. I pick Irusk because of the universal applicability of Iron Flesh, and he chooses Terminus. This game was mainly decided by 2 things. A. My lack of practice with the chess clock. This game was my 2nd game overall in 2012. And B. My misunderstanding of the flight special ability. I was still stuck in Mark 1 thinking that Terminus could just swoop over and punch Irusk into the face, while my opponent knew better than to get numerous critical knockdown free strikes. My board position was actually not that bad, and my feed turn went well, but in the end I just took too long for my turns and I lost to the clock. For other matchups we have Krix vs Protectorate, the Negra vs Severius, which in the end went to Severius. Then there was Legion against Khador. I don't know which Legion Warlock, but the Khador caster chosen was Vladimir the Dark Prince. The game went to Legion. The third Khador player had to go up against Krix as well. That Krix player would win the tournament in the end. The last game for this round was Circle vs Protectorate. The best painted Protectorate, it should be stressed. The army will often get close-ups whenever it's around. Circle manages to defeat the Harbinger, and that's it for round 1. In round 2, the scenario was supply and demand, however with dummy objectives. I could not exactly fathom why, but I just guessed the objective routes weren't at hand fast enough. Happens. I'm pitted against Protectorate, either Harbinger or Resnik. I chose Irusk again, and my opponent chooses the Harbinger, a tier 4 list. This player has had, as said, one of the best painted Menoth armies I've seen so far. My only worry was, how do I deal with 4 of those paladins and the jacks at the same time? Having never played the Harbinger before, I was caught in the feed and gaze trap with a few troops. It was then when I figured out the weak spot of the list, lack of rough terrain mitigation. So Inhospitable Ground basically allowed me to effectively void out the Harbinger's feet, which he had wanted to get the Alpha Strike with. The other thing that went really well for me was Irusk's feed turn, since my dice were rolling a lot 4 and upwards, and the fearless component of the feed kept my single eliminator in the game after losing her companion. After having molested Harbinger to martyr sometimes for her paladins, this single battle-lusted eliminator proves enough to gut her with a combo strike. And I had 32 seconds left on my clock. The other matchups were Carter vs Krix, again, I guess it was Irusk vs Gorshade, and Gorshade takes the win. Then we also have Circle vs Legion and another Carter vs Krix matchup. The scenario of round 3 was a flag to foul. I was once again up against Krix, and my opponent chose Vladimir and had to choose Vladimir Experience. My opponent chose Gorshade again. The game was a freaking mess. I lost due to a number of misplays adding up to my defeat. I forgot my reinforcements twice. I feeded too early, I mispositioned my eliminators, and I played unnecessarily aggressive. This unnecessity was shown by the simple fact that 3 Kayazi assassins under Hand of Fate, who walked up to Gorshade after Vlad's feed turn, left him alive on 4 boxes. It was a testament to the raw power of transference. Great moments were when the Pistol Wraith, coming in via reinforcements, fails to kill anything, and in response gets skewered by a pikeman's pike, or when the Marauder, charged a slightly damaged Cedar, combo smites him far enough that he hits a building and exactly destroys him. It should be noted that the very same Cedar on his initial charge got countercharged by the Dracoon and got a crit knockdown to the face. In the end, however, I got completely tabled and Vladimir went down in a drove of Bane Thralls. He also had a sold-up Deathjack in his backup, which wasn't exactly helpful. For completeness' sake, here are the other matches. Protectorate vs Protectorate, Krix vs Cardor, this seems to be getting a theme here, Cardor vs Circle, and the top table Legion vs Krix, where Krix is successful again. So my redux is that this was not a tournament for me, more of a matter of further education in terms of War Machine casters to be faced in tournaments. I mean, I played against no one of these casters before, which certainly didn't help. I'll say it again, I enjoyed all of the games and made some new friends. I also learned that bringing 2 casters with nearly the same list structure may not be exactly beneficial, but it does limit the amount of models you have to lug around with you for sure. And this is it for issue 71. I hope you enjoy the new double format standard, and I hope that I will always have enough bonus material to present. There will be more tournament coverage, or rather proof of my absolute fail games, and definitely some painting progress coming along. Oh, and for next issue's battle report, expect another army switch, which means I'm borrowing Signa again, but don't tell anybody, and a gruesome match. 71 bullets will be fired, 8 grenades will explode, and 29 models will die when 2 renowned gunslingers duke it out in the streets. And until then, farewell.